Hi, this is Farel. Welcome to my video, my YouTube channel, and the next Robot Todd page 14. This is start to finish with a little bit of an interruption of doing a sketch and a copy of my book like I did last week, or about 5 days ago now. So you saw me here at the beginning just ruling out the page. I started to use a template finally, so I have like a standard size parameters that I use, and there's the sketch. The first session, I don't remember exactly how long I worked on it, maybe like 20 minutes. There's a little clock there, you can tell. That's the goal, is to at least do 20 minutes, but most of these sessions were longer than that. So I was able to do just in one session, get the pencils fairly solid, and then I just went and inked the figure, and I'm not inking any of the backgrounds. I mentioned that in previous videos, and I'm just basically just inking the main characters in the foreground and leaving the background. I just pencil it and then add watercolors right on top of that. And the pen I'm using is a Faber Castell Pitt pen. It's water fast, archival, so I can go over it pretty heavily with watercolors, and the little black line still comes through. So this page in particular was it was a little challenging for me in the coloring part. Normally, I'm used to just having a sort of a natural light environment, outdoors or indoors. I can just sort of fake it enough. But this was all underwater, and I've never done this before, where I've done a underwater scene. I looked at a lot of I'm blanking on the author's name, but Children of the Sea is like a book series and a manga series, and I'll put the author's name in the description. I looked at a lot of imagery for that to try to get a background, and asked a friend to kind of give me some advice and criticism as I was going through doing this page, just because you can see here I'm spending a lot of time penciling. I'm just trying to think of different little things that I want in the background. Looking at these pictures, I decided to do some little coral reefs around the edges and having like weird little fish. And there's even in the second panel, there's a dugong, which is like kind of like a sea cow. I think that's what it is. I think that's how you say that. But you can see me kind of rendering it with pencil there. And I was kind of waiting I was thinking a lot about the coloring on this page in particular, and that took me the longest of all these sessions. Coloring, I think I did it in like 3 or 4 sessions, and a couple of those were a few hours long. Like today, I just finished the page, and took me about an hour of just touching up everything and kind of finishing it off and adding some fishes. And yeah, here I'm doing a lot of thinking on the page, adding like just elements like that pipe that Robot Todd's going through. Okay, so here's my book Delusional. I did one of these last week too. Someone contacted me on Instagram, and I took the book down off my store just because I figured it's kind of better for me if like you just subscribe to my Patreon if you want to get one of these. So subscribe to my Patreon and then contact me, and I'll do like a sketch in it and send it out to you. And the person that got the book requested that I do a character, robot character, alien and robots is what he said, from my book Popcorn War Chain Letter. And so I ended up doing the Frank Jean, the cyber boxer character, and then I did a little sketch of Gwen beneath him, and they're kind of like partners in the book, and you can actually see a copy of it open there on the left. But that's the finish of that. And so back to the page 14, Robot Todd. So I went in first off with just coloring Robot Todd, and I wanted it. I noticed a lot of those Children of the Sea paintings, the full color. The book's actually in black and white, but there's like some color images, like the covers, and they made an anime of it too, which I've never seen. But I kind of looked at that and some other. I just Google image search for like underwater swimming, reflections and sea creatures like tortoise and things like that. And so I put in some reflections on Robot Todd by just basically doing stripes of color. And here you can see I'm trying to figure out how to do shafts of light kind of coming through like sunlight or whatever coming through the water. And so I laid down a base after I did Robot Todd, and I got something that I was kind of happy with him, which went that one pretty fast and was pretty easy. But this laying down big flat areas of color with watercolors, like really tricky for me. So I just tried to keep it real wet and loose, and you can see I was flipping the page around to sort of let the little arty drips kind of push around and sort of flow around, sort of like how my water might feel to me. And just bearing in mind like where the light source was, like with the sunlight coming in through the surface of the water, and I drew actually with ink. I drew in little air bubbles kind of around Robot Todd as he was like moving his hands through the water. Like figured like when you do that, move rapidly through the water, it sort of creates little air bubbles. You can see here I'm adding just more and more layers of shadows and just kind of darkening up areas that I want to be darker. I pretty much went over everything twice except for the Robot Todd figure. Even like the dugong, where I kind of had a decent coloring job at first, but then when I was adding more layers to it, a lot of the edges would bleed, so I'd go in there kind of towards the end and add more, just kind of try to clean up the edges, and eventually I used a little bit of bleed proof white mixed in with the paint. I try not to use too much of that. That's the end of the second session, I believe, here, where it's coming together. And even the first session, when I first started it, I was like, oh man, this is gonna take forever. It's not gonna come out right. I'm like screwing this up. But then once I was done with it and I took a picture of it, I just was like, well, that actually doesn't look terrible. I showed it to a friend of mine, and they were really helped motivate me, to keep going. But I again, when I looked at it after the second time too, I was like, oh, that almost, just from the picture, it almost looks done. Like I knew it wasn't done. I knew there was a lot more work I had to do on it. But it's kind of nice being able to have a session, you work on it, instead of just trying to, I got to finish this page today, as fast as possible, just to sort of like take my time with it and put it away for a minute and then come back to it. And so there it's like, I think that might be the end of like the third session. And you can see that I've kind of added more layers. I still had the second panel to go. And I think at this point, the fourth panel was like pretty much finished. And the third panel pretty much finished. And I think I just pretty much today just worked on the second panel and the first panel mostly. I did a little bit here and there to the third panel as well, but I feel like the biggest share of work was the second panel, and there was a lot of cleanup I had to do on that first panel, just around those fishes and stuff. I feel like this is finished at this point, more so even than the last page I did, where I looked at the last page 13, and was like, I could probably touch a couple things up there once I looked at it again. But I'm feeling pretty good that this, I even like the way those shafts of light ended up looking on the second panel. I'm still gonna sit with it and like I'll look at it tomorrow again. But I'm pretty sure that this will be scannable now. I'll scan this in and move on to the next page for tomorrow. So I don't know. This was like a fun process in that. I mean, it was kind of frustrating and scary a little to me. Just like that last panel on the last page was. It was just like, okay, I haven't really done someone swimming before, like underwater camera stuff. I should have looked at like The Life Aquatic or something too. I wasn't even thinking about looking at movies. I was just thinking like other comics that had a lot of underwater stuff. I really like that Children of the Sea series too. It's great. I highly recommend checking it out. But so this is pretty much it for today for this video. Thanks for watching this. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. I have a Patreon too. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, that'd be great. It's helping fund this book and get it done. All right, I'll see you all in about a week. Bye.